Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin. My name is Richard Pyatt. I'm the communications manager for Utah County. I'm working with the Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, as he handles this case and as the county deals with the publicity surrounding this case. We appreciate your being here. Jeff will enumerate the charges and detail what the county's findings are up to this point, and then he will take questions. The number of questions may be limited, however. I may cut it off. I may assist him in helping to pick the people who are asking the question. We just ask that you keep the questions to the process of what we're talking about and refrain from asking questions that speculate or get into the political dynamic of the case. For Utah County, this is a murder case. We're trying a murder case. We're trying to keep the questions to that, but I understand that you're under pressure and have a lot of different questions, and we'll try to answer them. We're joined today by our sheriff and our prosecution team and our county commissioners. Jeff is going to be the only one speaking right now, and I'll introduce right now County Attorney Jeff Gray.
The murder of Charlie Kirk is an American tragedy. Charlie Kirk was murdered while engaging in one of our most sacred and cherished American rights, the bedrock of our democratic republic, the free exchange of ideas in a search for truth, understanding, and a more perfect union. It is also an offense against the state and to the peace and enjoyment of the people of Utah and of all those who visit here. But Charlie Kirk's murder also strikes a more personal and intimate chord. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a father to two beautiful young children. He was a son, he was a brother, and a friend. Like all murders, the senseless and needless taking of Charlie Kirk's life has shattered the lives of those he loved and those who loved him. To Charlie's wife, Erica, his two young children, his parents, his family, and his friends, I express my sincere condolences and offer my heartfelt prayers on your behalf. I also want to express my concern for everyone who was at Charlie's Turning Point USA event at the Utah Valley University, and all who have been impacted by this tragedy. As county attorney, I am charged with bringing justice to those who offend our laws. I am charged with bringing justice for those who are harmed. I am charged with bringing justice for Charlie Kirk. I am committed to these aims. I take this responsibility seriously. Today, after reviewing the evidence that law enforcement has collected thus far, I am filing a criminal information charging Tyler James Robinson, age 22, with the following crimes. Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital offense, for intentionally or knowingly causing the death of Charlie Kirk under circumstances that created a great risk of death to others. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony. The state is further alleging aggravating factors on counts 1 and 2 because the defendant is believed to have targeted Charlie Kirk based on Charlie Kirk's political expression and did so knowing that children were present and would witness the homicide. The state is also charging defendant with count 3, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for moving and concealing the rifle used in the shooting. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for disposing the clothing he wore during the shooting. Count 5, witness tampering, a third-degree felony, for directing his roommate to delete his incriminating texts. Count 6, witness tampering, a third-degree felony, for directing his roommate to stay silent if police questioned him. And count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor, for committing homicide knowing that children were present and may have seen or heard the murder and did so based on Charlie Kirk's political expression. Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently as county attorney, based solely on the available evidence and circumstances and nature of the crime. Because we are seeking the death penalty, the defendant will continue to be held without bail in the Utah County Jail. Turning to the 10-page information, these are the allegations. On September 10th, 2025, at approximately 12:23 p.m., Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to a large crowd on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Police found the suspected murder weapon, a bolt-action .30-06 rifle, nearby. Over the next approximately 33 hours, police conducted a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11th, 2025, when Tyler James Robinson surrendered to police at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the rifle's trigger. After shooting Mr. Kirk, Robinson hid the gun, discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, and told his roommate to delete incriminating text messages and not talk to police. Children were present at the time of the shooting. The shooting. Turning Point USA, a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk, organized a public outdoor event to be held at noon on September 10th, 2025 at UVU. The event was the first in a series of similar events to be held at college campuses nationwide. Mr. Kirk is a well-known conservative activist, famous for these type of events, where he discusses various political issues and debates with audience members. His events and comments have garnered a significant number of supporters and drawn the ire of many who disagree with his political views. The event at UVU was announced far in advance and garnered significant publicity and interest. Consequently, several hundred people attended. Mr. Kirk was interacting with a crowd before the event officially got underway. Then at approximately noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and microphone. He began speaking to the crowd and fielding questions from attendees, a format Mr. Kirk commonly used at his events. Mr. Kirk allowed his questioners to approach a microphone positioned directly in front of him. Mr. Kirk's team members were very close to him on his right and left, as well as some behind his canopy and others at various close locations near him. The large crowd surrounded Mr. Kirk on three sides. Temporary metal fencing separated attendees from Mr. Kirk by only a matter of feet. Directly above and behind Mr. Kirk was the UVU Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway spanning several hundred feet with floor-to-ceiling glass windows, which overlooked the plaza where Mr. Kirk was seated. People were in the walkway at the time of the shooting. Approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about mass shootings by transgender individuals when a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals beside Mr. Kirk, including the questioner who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared deceased. The medical examiner's report is still pending. So UVU surveillance. So at the moment of the shot, a UVU police officer was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of its sound, he looked for potential sniper positions. He noted a roof area approximately 160 yards away from Mr. Kirk as a potential shooting position and rushed there to look for evidence. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access the suspected location, a person must climb over a railing and then drop to the roof only slightly below. The UV officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the suspected shooting position and confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position and Mr. Kirk's seat. He also noticed markings in the gravel rooftop, consistent with a sniper having lain on the roof, impressions in the gravel potentially left by the elbows, knees, and feet of a person in a prone shooting position. Police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15 p.m. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area the UVU officer recognized as where the suspected sniper had dropped into a prone shooting position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual arose and ran across the roof to the northeast. This discovery led to an intensive review of UVU surveillance recordings to attempt to track and identify the suspect. Surveillance revealed the following. At approximately 11:51 a.m., the suspect entered campus from the north. He is seen wearing a black shirt with an American flag in the center, a dark baseball cap, and large sunglasses. Throughout the surveillance, the suspect keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across the campus, he is seen walking with an unusual gait. The suspect walks with very little bending in his right leg, consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railway off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. A camera later captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. Immediately after the shot was fired, a camera captures the suspect running across the roof carrying an item whose shape is consistent with a rifle. The suspect is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs toward the northeast end of campus. Expanded crime scene investigation. Law enforcement officers followed the suspect's escape path to the northeast end of campus, where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained one spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with the facts officers observed at the time of and immediately after the shootings. No shell casings were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired. Each round in the rifle contained an etched inscription as follows. The fired cartridge was etched, no Tice's bulge, OWO, what's this? The second cartridge that was again not spent, the last three were not spent, were not fired. The second, hey fascist, catch with arrow symbols, cartridge.
Well, I don't know what happened to the feed, but let me grab another one. I want to find out what is going on.
Help to identify him. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to try to identify the shooter through other means. The Washington County investigation. On the evening of September 11th, 2025, as law enforcement continued their investigation, Tyler James Robinson went to the Washington County Sheriff's Office with his parents and family friend to turn himself in. Robinson's
Yeah, folks, I don't know what is going on. Let me see if I can fix this.
Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband that the suspect shooter looked like Robinson. Robinson's father agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, referring to Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who is a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to turn himself in. The family friend spoke to police and reported telling Robinson that it would be best if he brought all evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. The friend also asked Robinson if he had any clothes that were related to what he did. Robinson replied that he had disposed of the clothes in different areas. The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he did provide those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange, then took place. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson, "I am still okay, my love, but am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I'd hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you." Roommate, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" Robinson, I am. I'm sorry." Roommate, "I thought they caught the person." Robinson, "No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering." Roommate, "Why?" Robinson, "Why did I do it?" Roommate, "Yeah." Robinson, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it." Roommate, "How long have you been planning this?" Robinson, "A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it." Robinson again, "I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. IDEK if it's had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The F in messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notice bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke, all right. I'm going to have to leave it. That really effing sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine, IDK. I think that was a $2K dollar scope. Wink, wink. Robinson again, delete this exchange. Again, Robinson, my dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me, RN, not answering. Robinson, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. Robinson, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. Again, you are all I worry about, love. That came from Robinson. Roommate, I'm much more worried about you. Robinson, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. The search for Robinson's residence. Police executed a search warrant on Robinson's residence. During that search, police discovered a shell casing with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near UVU. Police also found several target boards with bullet holes in Robinson's home. Now, as I stated in the beginning, when I read those allegations, these are allegations. And like the evidence set forth in this statement, those allegations, what you've heard from the media, even from state and federal officials, has not been tested in the crucible of a jury trial. I understand the public's desire to know the facts. My own family members have pressed me for information. Why are we reluctant to share the details of the investigation itself and comment on the case? Because I want to ensure a fair and impartial trial. I became a prosecutor because of my love for the ideals of this great country and the principles embedded in our Constitution. The free exchange of ideas and opinions is critical to this great American experiment, but so too are the protections afforded to the accused found in the Fifth and Sixth Amendments. The right against self-incrimination, the right to a speedy and public trial, the right to the effective assistance of counsel, the right to confront one's accusers, and the right to compel the attendance of witnesses. And perhaps most importantly, under our Constitution, the accused is presumed innocent until we, the state, prove to an impartial jury of defendant's peers his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That jury cannot rely on our allegations, on what they hear in the news, or on what they hear from a public official. The jury is the sole trier of fact, and they will ultimately determine those facts based on evidence a trial judge has determined is admissible. Again, as prosecutors, we bear the burden to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But make no mistake, we welcome this burden. I'd like to now introduce my trial team who will be charged with prosecuting the case. This is a veteran and expert team of some of the state's best trial attorneys. Chad Grunander, who is one of my two chief deputies, Ryan McBride and David Sturgill on the far right there. And those two were very much involved in preparing search warrants, did a phenomenal job, worked day and night to see that accomplished well after Robinson was taken into custody. Also, Lauren Hunt, she is one of our special victims prosecutors, and Chris Ballard, my second chief deputy, who will be handling motions. I'm going to explain just the procedural steps. We're not a grand jury. We don't have a grand jury system like the federal courts do. It's a preliminary hearing system. So the arrest and filing of the criminal information are merely the first steps in the criminal justice process. Today at 3 p.m., the defendant will appear before a judge in the Utah 4th District Court for his first appearance to be informed of these charges and to ensure that he has an attorney to represent him. The hearing will be brief. The judge will conduct that first appearance virtually via WebEx. This is not unusual. In the 4th District, all felony first appearances for defendants who are in custody are held virtually. A link to that hearing is available for media on the Utah State Courts X account at Utah State Courts. Now, following defendant's first appearance, he will be entitled to a preliminary hearing. At that hearing, the state will be required to show probable cause that defendant committed the crimes. The purpose of the preliminary hearing is not to determine guilt, but simply to assure the court that the prosecution has enough evidence to proceed to trial. If a judge finds probable cause and binds the case over for trial, an arraignment hearing will be held. At that hearing, a judge will again inform defendant of the charges against him and require him to enter a plea to each charge. The next step following the arraignment is an opportunity for the parties to file any relevant motions and then ultimately the trial itself. This case has generated a tremendous amount of interest across our nation and even the world. The public's desire for information is understandable, but it bears reiterating that this case will be tried in a court of law consistent with our Constitution, not the court of public opinion. Thus, we will only discuss the case with the press occasionally. It will not be a day-to-day or even week-to-week occurrence, but we will only do so in a manner as not to jeopardize the fair trial process. Before I conclude, I want to express my appreciation for the tireless work of our local, state, and federal law enforcement officers. They have an extremely difficult, dangerous, and often thankless job. I'm proud to acknowledge the exceptional work they do every day, and particularly their work on this case. It was truly a marvel to witness. Their skilled work and dedication have brought us to this point. I'm also grateful for the leadership demonstrated by Bo Mason, the Commissioner of the Utah Department of Public Safety, FBI Special Agent in Charge Rob Bowles, Utah County Sheriff Mike Smith, our local police chiefs, and Felice John Vitti, the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Utah. I'm also grateful for the support of our Governor, Spencer Cox, and our Attorney General, Derek Brown, who is standing behind me today and has offered his support and resources as we proceed to trial. Finally, I want to thank our Utah County Commissioners, Amelia Powers Gardner, Brandon Gordon, and Skylar Beltran. They too have pledged to assist with the resources needed to successfully prosecute this case. I will now take a few questions.
For questions, you could identify yourself and what organization. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. They are still looking into it. It's an undergoing investigation.
So is that a possibility?
They haven't ruled that out. I don't have that information.
Emily Anderson, Stars and Salt Lake Tribune. I know, acknowledging that you made this decision to pursue the death penalty independently, did you hear it all from the Trump administration or Governor Cox's administration as you were working on these charges?
I talked to officials from both administrations, but I was not pressured to make a decision. I understood their feelings on it because it was in the news, but we didn't really discuss that.
The FBI director has any indication that transgender issues played a role in the motivations for this shooting?
I'm going to stick to what I just stated in my public, in our information. I think that is pretty much set forth there.
Mr. Gray, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News. Just asking, are you planning to file additional charges against anyone else in connection with this?
Again, we don't have any information at this point of additional suspects, but I know that our law enforcement agencies are continuing to follow leads.
Mr. Gray, the FBI director today said that you are, quote, or that other people, a number of people are being investigated and interrogated.
seems that there are people who might be up for prosecution.
Yeah, I'm not.
That the suspect was a lone wolf, or could this be part of a?
I can't comment on that. I'm not aware of all their investigation. I just know that these agencies are continuing to investigate this case and follow all leads.
Dennis Hilfiger with BBC News. Would like to know, how does this possibly interface with any federal charges?
That's up to the feds. They have different charges and they're reviewing the evidence. And after they review the evidence and the law, they could file charges, but I'm not privy to exactly what they're looking at.
Dennis Hilfiger with the BBC. You spoke a lot about text messages with the roommate. The governor previously said the roommate is cooperating, but could we see charges against the roommate?
Again, I'm not prepared to answer that question. It's part of our code, and so we charge that.
For those that aren't of a legal mind, is this a confession, the text messages? Is that legally a confession? And is he cooperating since he's been taken into custody?
Ultimately, a judge will determine that at trial.
And cooperation, has he spoken at all? Has he been cooperating? Since he's turned in?
Again, I'm not going to comment on that.
Has he had any statements at all?
Okay.
What more can you tell us about the suspect's time online that some say radicalized him?
I am not aware of that information. It's, again, still under investigation.
And has he expressed any remorse so far about this?
I am not going to comment on that.
Is he continuing to not cooperate?
I am not going to comment on that.
Mr. Gray, the FBI director has been way out in front in terms of presenting evidence to the public. Your team has been very circumspect, very measured in what they let out. Does that hamper your investigation as you go back through this?
Well, as attorneys, we typically like to control that information to preserve an impartial jury and a fair trial.
So has he been investigated?
Ex- Excuse me? I don't have that information.
Can you tell us more about what the family may have said in interviews?
Um,
His mother?
What the family said is what I provided.
Mr. Gray, do you anticipate that the defense will try to get this trial moved out of Utah County, and how will you respond to that?
That from where?
From Utah County?
That the defense will be from Utah County?
That they will try to get the trial moved to a different location?
I couldn't predict what they're going to do.
You say, is there any evidence to suggest that the timing of the shot and the question that was asked about mass shootings transgender, is that more than coincidence?
That will be for a jury to decide.
Mr. Gray, are you confident that the roommate had no part of this attack whatsoever?
Again, I'm not going to comment on the evidence.
But the evidence so far, does it show any involvement?
Again, I'm not going to comment on other than the facts that or the evidence that we've gathered so far.
The suspension of the DNA here in the press conference jeopardized his right to a fair trial?
I don't believe so. This is part of a public document that we have to file as we file a criminal information. We have to file a probable cause statement. That's a public document. And so we're comfortable with that.
Are his parents and the roommate still cooperating?
I'm not going to comment on that either.
The FBI has said that this suspect had a hatred of Kirk. What else can you share about that?
I can't share any more than what I've already said.
This was an incredibly precise shot. Do you have any evidence that he went places to practice or had to track his movements before the shooting that's giving you insight into how he prepared?
The evidence that I'm willing to share is what I just read in our statement, and it's in the
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm
information.
afraid we're going to have to cut it off there.
Okay.
Did
Yeah.
you consult Eric Kirk about seeking the death penalty?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, that was odd. So they did just announce that there will be at their website all the charges available, yada, yada, yada. But here's the oddest thing ever. You know, I'll share a couple clips with you in regards to this case, and then I'll tell you how it kind of, I think, is going to overflow into the Idaho 4 case. If they didn't learn anything, circumstantial evidence, I mean, DNA, right? Let's start sharing this, because this is exactly what they're saying, circumstantial evidence. But just this morning, they've released, and this comes from, where does this come from? ABC4news.com, local in Salt Lake City. And this news basically is saying that the FBI director, Kash Patel, shared on Fox and Friends on Monday morning that Robinson's DNA had been found on 2 pieces of evidence. They said it was found in a towel that he was wrapped around the firearm, as well as a screwdriver that was found on the rooftop. And he basically says, I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody. Now, that DNA is, again, alleged touch DNA. Didn't say that it was contact, and we have got to be smart and diligent about what they share with us, because the minute, and this is generally, the minute they say DNA, the whole country is, he's guilty. He's guilty. And let me tell you how they're doing it this fast. I have seen rapid testing in police departments where they have the ability to test certain things, and they are working on the back end. Obviously, the FBI is involved, and that is a really good question. I am wondering if Utah has a connection to Courtroom, because they are obviously embedded in these cold cases, and now they're embedded in new cases, especially as an example with the Idaho 4. But here is one of the major questions that I am questioning, because I question the unthinkable. Are these situations being first and foremost in regards to changing some laws, changing some policing, changing ways that they do certain things in regards to the justice system? I think, yes, we can see that, because in the Idaho 4 case, for example, they basically said that they had Koberger's DNA in a matter of days. Now, see, Courtroom gave the, how do I want to say this? Courtroom gave it away. When the owners of Courtroom sat down and said the key words, which a lot of people probably did not hear. And it was to the effect, I'm not stating exactly, but it was something along these lines. She sat there and she stated that the university, you know what? Let me just pick it up real quick. Let me get that video. What was it at CrimeCon? Hold on. I want to pull this up because I want you to see this video for yourself. I'm going to reference it, and let's see if it's still up there. Let's see. It was just a really short clip, and she had said something that made me think about, wait a minute, something's not right here. After the fact, and this was just last week when she said it. Before that, she had not been able to speak out. And where did it go now? Where did that video go? see if I can find it this way. Here it is. That is not the one I want with her and David sitting there. I want the one with just her. I think it was on intent. Let me see if they've got that clip still. Where'd it go? Usually I have all my clips ready when I do a live. This is totally impromptu, guys. Sorry. There's one thing that I am looking for that is the piece of the puzzle. I recorded it. It probably should be in my repository. But I wanted you guys to see that clip. Let me see. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, here it is. It's on freaking... I saved it under my favorites just in case I needed it. Okay. Where'd it go now? I hit the button. All right. Let's just take a peek at this. I wonder... Let's see if it's fun. Hold on. All right, let me see if this is it. Okay. Now, there is a moment. Let me see if there is an actual transcript in regards to... Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. Let's see if this is where it's at.
One of those people that went through the worst of what society can give you, the unimaginable. I can't imagine going through what Stacey went through. And instead of letting that define her, she's actually turned the worst experience of her life into light. And she wants to give back to the world in a positive way and advocate for justice and fairness for everyone, advocate that technology is used in real time. That means a lot to me.
Okay, she said use the technology in real time. Now, that is something that obviously they have been trying to do. But in this transcript, there is also, they've been under gag, yada, yada, yada. I should probably clip this and I'll cut it in here. But basically, she said that the university reached out to them. Okay, the university, I'm sorry, not the university, Moscow Police Department. And we saw that. We saw that in the MPD documents. Okay. Now, when you see those documents and you read those documents, they don't jive with what she just said. Okay. When you go and you say, let me show you. Let me pull up this document. All right. This document right here. So Dustin Blaker puts this into the system on 1/4/22, on 1/4/23. He basically shares that, yep, I flew to Othram on the 21st, sometime between yada, yada, yada. He got it from the ISP lab on the 22nd, went through his backpack, went through security, and then he arrived. So allegedly on the 22nd is when it was dropped off at Othram. But she goes on to say that basically, you know, the kids were coming back to school, the university this, the university that. And I thought, wait a minute, they were on vacation. She said that they already had students that were not coming back, that were worried about coming back, that weren't going to come back. They were worried about enrollment numbers. So it just so happened they were sitting on this DNA for a while, right? The 21st, it took place on the 13th. So they were worried that students would not be returning, and they turned to Othram because they had felt their case gone cold. But if you look at the ISP documents and you look at the Moscow documents, you see that this case was not going cold. They were narrowing down into almost 3 to 4 suspects. You have to understand these documents tell a different story than what we've been told in the mainstream news. Now, the reason I put up the affidavit on Justice for All is because, yes, we are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and everything that they have said so far has been circumstantial. They have to find hardcore evidence. Then we get the statements from Kash Patel about the DNA, right? So that brings us back to the immediate FBI response is basically that they had walked the entire crime scene. We know that past, history that they work with these kind of labs. So there's no gag order. I don't see anything on Orthram's website. Will we see something quickly in regards to their recent casework that they highlight on their website? Is this one of those things where perhaps another police department is on their radar or in their portfolio? All right. Is this another one of those instances where this is going to be on their portfolio? They say the last 30 days they've solved these crimes. The last 7 days they've solved these crimes. The last 90 days they've solved these crimes with their DNA process. So are they on the contract with Orthram? Is Utah the next state over from Idaho that is going to put this DNA technology on the map? I mean, I've seen some wild things going on, but let me show you something. I don't know if you've seen these videos, and I'm going to tie this into the current state of Idaho and what's happened there. Now, let me share this video. I don't know if you guys have seen this video. I've muted it only for the simple fact that it has some other background music that I don't want to get hit or a violation for. So these are the individuals that were following Charlie Kirk's body. These individuals are from another country. They are filming all this, okay? That video, this video, is them actually putting Charlie inside the truck. Again, I've muted this. I don't know if you guys have seen these videos. But there are a lot of little hidden gems in these videos. And then this video, which leads me to my next one, there is a lot of this going on that we are very aware of. Let me just hit the sound on this.
Paid.
Why? Are you fired?
No, I'm not fired as of right now. Right now, I am suspended indefinitely unpaid.
Why?
So I walked into the nurse's station and I just had learned about Charlie Kirk. I saw this guy. I didn't know who he was at the time. And he was standing there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, saying how he deserved it. He hated Charlie Kirk and he had it coming to him. And
so you love Charlie Kirk. You didn't just want to aware of him.
I loved,
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Charlie Kirk. My first retweet in 2018 by it was like my first blue check mark retweet was Charlie Kirk. I was a couple years out of college and loved him ever since.
You're aghast at this, and what'd you say?
So I looked down at his badge because I didn't know, you know, what job, if he was a doctor, a nurse, a
Never saw him
tech,
before.
never saw him before. I looked down, I see his badge and it says doctor. And I said, "You're a doctor?" I said, how are you saying this as a doctor that someone deserved to die? I mean, to me, I was just mind blown.
So there you have the doctor reference, which takes us into, where am I going with this? Well, let me
does
show
Christy
you.
Gonzalez have
What
a
the heck?
stalker?
Let me stop sharing that crap. Okay, so this is the next bit of piece of information that is very interesting. A congressman, Mike S. in Idaho, he shares this amazing X, I don't know what you call it now, it's not tweet anymore, but he shares this amazing tweet. He says, David B., which we know is David Berry in the Idaho 4, an employee of the Idaho Human Rights Commission, has posted incredibly disturbing rhetoric following the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I'm thinking to myself, how did he insert himself into this crap, right? Well, when you start looking at it, it's very interesting. You know, obviously, this is Mike Simpson, Idaho Congression. He is in District 2. And here's his background. Here's his history. And you can go to his X if you want to, and you can go read this for yourself. And he basically says, you think this is sick. You would think that working for Human Rights Commission would remind him that Charlie Kirk was a human being. Well, I had to go and see what exactly he said. And I'm sure many of you have seen this also. And this is what he publicly put out there. Now, when I say publicly, he put it on social media, and let me show you what he says next. He says this horrible rhetoric right here, called Charlie Kirk a pedo, and now he's dead, and it's a net positive for our society. He says this is a net positive for our society. Pipe down because you didn't speak up when it mattered before. LMAO. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. This is the guy, and yes, he was fired from what I understand. He was let go. But if you look at the document about him, he was, I'm trying to find it. He was basically, here it is, fired. David B., Idaho state employee fired after post of Charlie Kirk. What I feel to be the truth. This is what he basically said. He posted this in a private, he thought it was safe because he posted it privately. Now, he's been outed before on social media for some other things, right? You've seen him in the Idaho 4 special in regards to, you know, basically he was trying to get back home after 4 a.m. and this and that. This is the guy, this is the same guy, right, who claimed his innocence in the Idaho 4 murders. Same guy, same dude. Graduated working at the U of I. Didn't he learn anything at the U of I? I mean, he basically says he was an internet sleuth suspect in the Idaho 4. And he's always talking about his innocence. And it goes on to say a couple of other things that just didn't make sense. But this congressman called him out. And said, you know, basically, hey, what you're doing is just disgusting, dude. Give it up. right? So there's that. And when you go down, here he is at the U of I. He was a clerical tutor, then obviously full-time. This one is bad. He is a violent, this is what the individual that posted about. David B. is a violent extremist who works at the University of Idaho, the Department of Labor and Human Rights Commission. This is disgusting. He defames Charlie Kirk, calling him a known pedo. He does this. His family estate should absolutely sue this evil extremist. The fact that this kind of person works for the Human Rights Commission in Idaho is disgusting. And yes, they did, in fact, fire him. And it's in the Eastern Idaho News. It's all over social media now. This was just like within the last few days. One of the things that I was curious about is, who is he linked to? Who is he known by? Why is he in this realm of connecting the dots, right? And I'm thinking to myself, he graduated, I believe, with political science. Didn't he graduate in political science? Something, governmental relations. He was an intern. I think university political science and Spanish. I think that's what it was. Let me grab the newsletter again. He's in here. He's in this March newsletter. Here he is. He is studying political science and Spanish. Now, this was the guy that was maybe in Spain. Remember when everyone said that he disappeared? He was overseas and he was, I believe that's accurate, right? I believe that was accurate. This was one of the guys that was, in fact, let me blow this up. Yeah. I was born and raised in Boise, Idaho, and I'm the middle boy between an older and a younger sister. I attended St. Joe's Catholic School, K through 8 school, and then Bishop Kelly. Okay, just another connection, guys. I see myself practicing some type of law. Remember when I said some of these people would be future lawyers, attorneys, congressmen? Didn't I say this? Now, when I found this out about him, I was like, OMG. Networking through his internship, he's built connections, and I see myself practicing some type of law, and I believe that this internship will help me gain the discipline I need to pursue my dreams in the utmost capability. Now, isn't this just interesting? Governmental relationship intern. Okay. All right. He might be now looking to go back to school since he's been fired, or perhaps find another job. Well, good luck. Hopefully you won't be in the unemployment line too long, because sadly, we live in a culture where you can easily be fired or canceled due to what you say. And even though, there's another one, even though he admitted that his comments, which implied Kirk was in hell, yes, he did say that. Yes, he did say that. Why would someone even say that? But defended his First Amendment right, especially in the light of recent backlash others have received over comments about the shooting. When he saw a social media post circulated about him, instead of retreating or apology, he decided to go back online. I was fired from my state job for comment on Instagram, he said in a post on Reddit. This was last week. Ask me anything. And he was unsympathetic. Does he not have a human bone in his body? Right? I'm thinking to myself, who does this guy think he is? Is he a part of all this wild stuff that happened in Idaho connected now to Utah. I didn't think anything of it, he said in his interview, because, it was a private Instagram account. It was no way connected to my employment. Well, dude, people know you work there. I was generally careful about social media. I keep accounts private and not let strangers follow me. Well, dude, it was one of your own that turned you in, allegedly, or somebody saw it because it got back to the congressman. And what did the congressman do? He retweeted your stuff. He retweeted it. And he said, basically, he was calling for your job. And guess what happened? No job. So, yeah, be careful what you say on social media. You might voice it in person, but, I learned something in the military. Praise in public, reprimand in private. So this was last week on the same day, I believe he was let go from his job. So people do notice, people are watching. And this whole Idaho 4 thing, I'm telling you, this DNA has already gotten out. You just heard the live that I just shared, the update. And if they wanted this guy to have a fair trial, they've already started condemning him in the public. They have already started showing how public he is connected and that he could potentially be the one who did this. Now, I've seen videos, guys. I don't know about you, but I've seen plenty of other videos that shots have come from other locations and not the roof. So how do we know for sure that this kid actually pulled the trigger? We don't. We don't know. They never retrieved a bullet. Where did this bullet go that was said to be engraved, etched? We need to know. It's our right to know, and it's our right to protect our constitutional rights. If you haven't seen Justice for All yet, I have put the affidavit, a clean copy. I have not put anything, no logos or anything, so people can read it for themselves, download it, look at it, study it, use it for toilet paper, whatever you want, shred it. It is a clean copy. There is no watermarks. I don't believe in doing that shit. I'm over it, right? This is public information. Anyone can get it. You don't have to put your whatever on whatever. So hopefully you guys can see that. It's a nice, clean, clear copy. You can go download it right there. All 3 pages. I will be putting up other stuff as they let out some information. But why in the heavens did they release information? Why? Like text messages going back and forth, because that's an ongoing investigation. I think they did it for the media to start fueling the fire. They're getting the attention they want in this case in Idaho. And yes, I've seen the current withdrawal last week on record from, here, I'll show this one since I have it on my screen. In regards to Karen Laramie, Stacy Chapin, James Chapin, Maisie Chapin, and the city of Moscow. And it looks to me clearly that perhaps one of the lawyers, I'm just speculating, one of the lawyers has now dropped out of this case. Maybe they were just there, just temporarily. I don't know, but a notice of withdrawal was given, and I don't know who is until we figure it out or find out. And the attorneys of records were here. They were all present. It was live streamed. And, obviously it was amended. So I'm sure that, I can ask for court minutes. That's not a problem. But we can actually see what's happening in this update too. So thanks for tuning in. I'm just looking at the similarities from Idaho 4 from an evidence, just asking the questions and looking at things that don't make sense. People on the TikTok streets are seeing it finally. People on YouTube are seeing it. And just a notice for you guys that watch us creators. we have to be very cautious. Even though you see a large following in some individuals, that doesn't mean that they're not part of an agency. And I have noticed over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years on social media, there are some people that show up out of nowhere and immediately get all these followers. And I'm thinking to myself, are they saying what they want to say on their own? Or are they saying scripted information? Because here in this day and age, in order to play, you have to say what they want you to say. And if you haven't seen it, then you haven't been on social media long enough to see the patterns. Be careful out there, guys. And as always, be well.
No more hidden verdicts, no more secrets solved. Every voice is a weapon, every story be told. Innocent till proven guilty, that's our final decree. Under this constitution we stand forever free. Phoenix in the dawn, truth ignites the sky. Together we stand tall, no more asking why.